Thanks for the introduction. We do a lot of work with automotive as well as other industries, so aerospace and defense, high tech, consumer goods and retail, and a lot of what we produce is beautiful imagery, so whether that's photographic imagery or 3D data. What I really want to do today is take you through some learnings or some best practices from the last few years of projects in AR and VR. My goal is that everybody here takes away one new learning so that when you have your next AR or VR project, you can improve it in some small way. A lot of the points I'm going to raise seem a little trivial or quite obvious, but they often get missed, so I think it's worthwhile taking the time to go over them, and hopefully you'll pick up something new. So, what does the age of experience mean? I'm trying to communicate that people are not so much interested in the features or the benefits only of a product anymore. They want to engage with it and interact with it before they make a purchase decision. That's true for expensive items as well as cheaper items. So, 6 little things I think we should consider in our next AR and VR projects. I've been working with AR since 2010 and delivering VR for the last 3 years. So I've seen a lot of good things and a lot of things go not so good, and hopefully we can learn from that. First thing, beautiful content. So it's important to have something that looks real if you're trying to create a perception of reality or virtual reality. It's very easy to know when you've got it right. If it looks real, then it's good enough. If it doesn't look real, then you're never going to create that spell for the user, and they're never going to be engaged that they're having a real virtual experience. Just show you a few quick slides of the type of quality we achieve. Referencing the previous session, there's both Unreal and Unity examples in there. And that's the type of quality that we can bring from CAD data, design data, transforming it into photorealism, and then you've got all these assets that you can plug into a virtual world. We'll see some examples later. So to wake us up, we've got a short 2-minute show reel with a bit of loud music. Okay, so that's the plug for my current employer, 3D Excite. You can see there a lot of the quality. All of those models were 3D virtual models, not real vehicles. Next topic, hybrid reality. If you have any interaction in the virtual world where the user's touching or physically interacting with a product, it's critical that it matches exactly what they're seeing in the virtual world. So for example, if I'm having an experience here with a table in front of me, if I put my hand down to touch it and I hit it here, or I don't hit it till my hand's here, then straight away it just feels really bad and off. So it has to be believable, and it's important to think of the person's point of view as well and where their eyes are placed in the experience. We've had some seated experiences in automotive, and if you're a short person, you might have your eyes behind the steering wheel, and that's a very different experience than sitting where you should be and looking out the window if you want to really get the feel that you're in the car. So the obvious solution there is install a real vehicle seat in the display that the user can modify and raise and move forward and back so they're seated just in the right spot. That was the Geneva Motor Show this year. Another example of the same point with hybrid reality. This is the guys at NASA. They train their astronauts for the International Space Station with hybrid reality. A lot of the tasks, such as loading the cargo bay, they do in virtual reality now, and so you can have the box being taken and placed in the right place in the space station. You can get sub-millimeter precision with the HTC Vive now, so if the box needs to be just there, you can get it just there on the right spot. Pretty basic setup. Somebody stuck a controller in a bit of polystyrene, but it's only a matter of time before we have small stickable markers that can be put on different assets and physical objects. Another important topic, audio immersion. So we're all used to seeing brilliant content on the internet or on our smartphones, and we know what looks photorealistic, and we're happy with that. But if you're having a virtual experience, again, you can lose that magic as soon as you start picking up on conversations happening beside you or some traffic noise from outside. Your brain notices the incongruity straight away, and it breaks the spell. So it's very important to consider audio to keep the immersion. Here's an installation that was not done by 3DEXCITE, but it illustrated the point quite well, where you've got a headset there along with the user. A couple of issues with audio immersion. You lose the easy ability to speak to the consumer or the person who's interacting with your product or experience, and the obvious and workable solution is to have a Bluetooth headset and some type of host who guides them through the experience, either to provide information how to use it or additional answers to questions if they have any. We've now got arrays of speakers, so you can get almost 360-degree sound. So as you move closer to the speakers, they'll fade out a little quieter, and the ones behind you will be louder, so you still feel that you're positioned in the soundscape. And VR navigation. So the key word there is intuitive. It doesn't need to be realistic. One good example is if you speed up the X and the Y axis when somebody's moving. So if they take 1 or 2 steps, they actually move 5 meters along the product instead of just 2 meters. It's not realistic at all because we don't move like that, but it's very intuitive, and straight away people get that mode of movement. We've all been on escalators in the airport, and we know what it feels like to walk faster than normal, and you adjust to it within a couple of seconds. A couple of other ways we've tried were not successful. The teleporting, if you're familiar with VR and you've used it quite a lot, you're familiar with teleporting, and it's easy and it's fun and you just do it, but that's not true for most people. So new users, when they come in to use the teleporting and they pick a spot on the floor in front of them and they magically appear there, they're never appearing where they want to be. They expect to be facing this direction or slightly to this direction, and it always takes them half a second or a second to adjust from their new location to where they thought they should be. And it's actually more natural for somebody to move in a speeded up mode. Another nice mode, which I quite like, is the miniaturization of an environment. So for a larger scale experience, such as the Cologne Messe, if we could shrink the Messe down to the size of an architect's floor plan, then I can step over to Photokina and bring the experience up to the real size. That's a really nice method. Could we kill the sound on this one, please? Thank you. Or mute the sound, so sound turn down. Or get rid of it completely. Sorry, my New Zealand accent is not clear. Not possible? Okay, no problem. I'll just talk loud over the background noise. So I just wanted to demonstrate with this little clip some of the challenges with navigation in enclosed spaces. A lot of users feel incredibly uncomfortable if they find themselves cut off and if they by accident teleport into the middle of the table, so their field of view is truncated with the table through them. And the best way to avoid that is not to use teleporting at all. which gives you the challenge, okay, how do you move to more distant locations? A solution we came up with here is you go into the aircraft's, what's a good room for that? Name for that room? Elevator-like space. And when you turn around, you see a different layout of these private jets, which you can configure for one of our clients. So you have the ability to just make a very simple interaction to change the room without forcing a person to walk 5 meters, then another 5 meters, then another 5 meters. We can skip to the next one. It's really interesting to me how, even with everybody using a mouse at work and some of us having played computer games, how confused people get with a simple two-button interaction for VR. I couldn't believe it. It was nearly 50% of the users I saw using some of these experiences for the first time who got confused between two buttons. So we had a thumb pad on one side and a trigger finger on the other side. And often, even though you'd explain it to the user before they put the goggles on, as soon as they're in the little world, they can't see their hands. They're insistently clicking the wrong button. I'm chatting to them through the headphones to tell them it's the other one, and it wrecks the experience. So I think it's key to reduce the complexity as much as possible, the interface. You can still have lots of different functions with a single button. For example, if you're close to a door and you click it, it can open the door. If you're close to a light switch and you click it, it can turn the light on. So you can still have a richness of interaction without forcing the user to use many fingers, which they can't see with a headset on. That makes a big difference. AR interaction. Everything we've talked about so far has been VR, and just a short plug for AR because this is an AR and VR conference. You should consider the interaction as a key deliverable. So it's not good enough to just create your product and stage it and show it beautifully in AR. The novelty's worn off. Everybody's played with AR before, so it's not that exciting anymore. You need to have some type of interaction. The basic ones are configuring the product, as you can see here, so you can scroll through the different colorways of the vehicle, but there's also a slider up on the top left, so you can change the speed of that vehicle on its little pretend road. And behind her left hand, you see the little marker. So this is just marker recognition we're using here. There's a couple of different examples from different industries on this particular app. I think this one's an aircraft interior configurator. Not actually AR at all, but most people wouldn't know the difference. So if you want to deliver an AR experience, you should feel free to suggest something completely different. So this is just a 360 configurable image or configurable. We've also got configurable videos now, 360. So it's important to understand what the client's requesting before you just deliver what they're asking for. So this was something put together for General Electric, just to show the wind throw through their various turbines. There's only one of them being shown in this example. Okay, so those are all with marker recognition, the ones which were actually AR. It's much more interesting if you have 3D object recognition. So rather than needing to have your A4 sheet of paper stuck on the desk, the camera phone can recognize, okay, that's a bottle, and it will throw up the information related to whatever you want to describe about that bottle. In this case here, it was the controls within the BMW i8. So the camera would recognize, okay, which control button are you looking at there, and then give you instructions on, okay, this is how you use it. Reasonably complex car. And the last point I think we should consider, and needs to be considered more, is adding some wow factor. So often I see design agencies or conceptors come up with ideas for virtual reality, and they're basically just duplicating what you can do in a car showroom or in any other physical environment. And it works well, so sure, have a virtual museum, and maybe school children can go without having to fly to the US, or elderly or sick people can experience that, but it's missing out on all the other effects and amazing interface things you can do in virtual reality. So if you think of special effects in the movies, if you think of video game effects, all of that is now possible in the VR world. So rather than just a transition of a plane's exterior color from red to blue, why not fade it out so it's translucent and you can see the interior and see all the seats, and then fade the next color in, or explode the parts out so you can see the different components of the engine from 3D, walk around them, get a feeling for how they interact, then collapse them back in together. So all those types of transitions are possible in virtual reality, and they're often neglected. So, obvious examples, you've got dangerous or inaccessible locations, whether it's top of Everest or with sharks or dinosaurs or something fun like that. There's loads of opportunities to stage a product or an experience in a way that you can't duplicate in a trade fair or a physical shop. So that was the summary. Those are the 6 points I think we should all bear in mind. I hope that everybody's picked up at least one small thing that they hadn't considered in their past projects, which will help improve the quality of future projects. And I'll end on that note with an example of one piece of virtual reality work we've done. It has a lot of the good stuff, but not all. In terms of beautiful quality, the product is quite awesome, but I think it's a very bad choice of an environment. The cobblestones don't have any texture because it was too heavy to render, so it just feels a little odd. It would have been much better, for example, to have a flat asphalt space there instead. If you see an example of the building, maybe in a few minutes you'll notice there's a flag. If there was a building with no flagpole or a flagpole with no flag, that's no problem. But we had a flag sticking out as if the wind was blowing, but there's no fluttering there, so it just felt wrong. It should be removed. For this little show video, he's not wearing his headphones, but we had some nice background noise of just faint city hum, a few birds tweeting, which really adds to the experience. Interaction was pretty good, so there's lots of opportunities to interact with different pieces of the vehicle, both inside and outside it. A bit of a fail with the use of 2 buttons, as I mentioned before, so we need to simplify that again in the next one. And you'll see here when he gets out, he steps back a little bit and goes around the outside of the door. So I've seen probably 100 people use this experience. Nobody walks through the door. It's incredible how our brains have trained us not to walk through something we can see, even if we know logically that the table's not there in the virtual world. So rather than having somebody walk around this car, there are a few occasions where the car drives around itself and gives the opportunity to see a different angle. So that's another aspect for virtual reality navigation. You don't have to navigate the user, you can navigate the object that you're interested in showing. He looks happy. Good. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to share that with you, and I hope you learned something.